Hey everyone, welcome back. Weekly Reset has arrived, and with it, we have gained access to Sporothrix's Nightwave Augment, Volatile Variant. Honestly, there isn't much to say about this augment. It's very strong. The closest comparison I can make to this weapon is Strun and Incarnon. Both are AoE/weighted weapons. While the Strun Incarnon shoots faster, has stronger AoE out the gate, and to many, feels more satisfying to use, the Sporothrix with its augment is far from useless. For the rest of this video, whenever I mention Sporothrix, it is assumed that the augment is also factored in. First, I will compare Sporothrix to the Strun Incarnon, because that is what it is most similar to in practice, and then towards the Komorex, the only other AoE sniper available. Strun Incarnon carries far higher raw damage at 200 on the AoE and can reach absurd amounts of status, easily surpassing 600% on the explosion. It also has 50% slash weight by default, however it does have some drawbacks. It requires 30 headshots to charge, which can be a nuisance due to even the normal mode having very high damage. The Sporothrix by comparison has 54% slash weight on the AoE and 42% on the direct hit. While it only has 41 base damage on the AoE, snipers benefit from a combo system that multiplies the final damage of your shot. This system is similar to the old melee combo, where you gained 0.5 times final damage at each combo threshold increment. Now, you'd need 3 times the amount of landed shots to the previous to reach the next threshold. Unlike most snipers, Sporothrix has a base combo threshold of 1, meaning it already deals 1.5 times more damage after 1 combo. In other words, it already deals 3 times total damage at just 27 combo, which takes about 1 to 2 magazine dumps in a crowd. It reaches 4 times total damage at 243 combo, which is not practical in an exterminate, but then again, you don't run Strun Incarnon in exterminate missions, do you? In survival, this 243 combo can be easily reached in about 1 minute. Now, that measly 41 base damage on the AoE is 164, and so long as you don't die, you keep it for the entire rest of the mission. You only lose 1 combo every 3 seconds if you fail to build any more. Now this can scale up to 5 times combo, 6 times combo, etc. However, that takes a while and I'm gonna ignore that. Yes, this weapon has 1% crit chance and requires Arcane Avenger to crit properly, and can benefit from crit damage stats, which are quite inflated. However, everything is already dying in mission and Steel Path, right, when I hipfire, like this. So this is the niche this weapon serves. If you want the power of Strun Incarnon without needing to charge the Incarnon meter of the Strun, the Sporothrix is now the answer. The numbers may not be as big, but because it is slash procs after all, it's the small white number, which is still easily several 100,000 to millions that will do the job. It does massive AoE slash procs on hipfire already. However, if you want the benefit of the sniper combo mechanic, you do have to be aiming down sights. Headshots are not necessary, but result in significantly higher damage due to snipers having bonus headshot multipliers and scope bonuses. Sporothrix in particular has a final plus 50% damage on headshots. On the bright side, Sporothrix is also a lot more accessible than Strun Incarnon, not needing you to finish a new war and unlock Zeramin so that you can use Incarnon adapters at Caballero. It does not need Steel Path circuit grind and waiting for specific weekly cycles, etc. TLDR, if you want a spammable AoE slash weapon that does not need charging, the Sporothrix handles this quite well. It gives relatively comparable firepower to the Strun Incarnon at base Steel Path expected without needing to deal with charging the Incarnon meter. In comparison to Komorex, the other AoE sniper, it's a lot simpler. Sporothrix has a bigger AoE, but lower innate damage on the AoE. Sporothrix has 54% innate slash weight on the AoE with super high status, whereas Komorex has lower status, pure viral in the AoE, and does not have enough crit chance to reach 100% for 100 munitions unless you use Arcane Avenger, whereas Sporothrix still is an absolute slash monster even without Avenger. Therefore, Komorex has better upfront raw damage, and Sporothrix has better slash scaling on dots. For dot build, since both have innate viral, Sporothrix once again pulls ahead due to 53% status and a unique trait of its augment, even if you're not building for slash but say electric or gas. Volatile Variant makes Sporothrix explode on every enemy it punches through, whereas Komorex always explodes immediately on contact, even with punch-through mods. Therefore, in a higher density area, Sporothrix will always surpass Komorex due to significantly more AoEs produced. However, Komorex can be crafted from the energy lab in the dojo or bought with platinum, whereas Sporothrix is not purchasable with platinum, and can only be farmed from isolation vault bounties on Deimos, which can be a bit of a pain. But that is still an easier farm than Strun Incarnon adapters from Duviri and then requiring access to Caballero and Zeramin. Basically, Sporothrix is the new best AoE sniper for scaling damage. Alright, let's take a look at the Augment mechanics, Volatile Variant. It's honestly not bugged, which is surprising and does exactly what it says. Things to note: the plus 3 meter punch through is enough to hit 5 humanoid enemies in a straight line, since humanoids usually consume 0.6 meter punch through per body. Quadrupeds use up 1 meter, so that's still enough to shoot through 3 infested chargers to hit a 4th or a big enemy. Basically, you can shoot through boxes, and always multi-target if there is a crowd. The plus 4 meters only applies if you hit an enemy with a shot, otherwise you only get the base 1.7 meters explosion. The stats of this augment apply last after everything else, and this means the plus 4 meters AoE is not affected by Prime Firestorm, and thus makes this mod not worth slotting in. It only increases the hit AoE from 5.7 to 6.5 meters. The plus 50% status chance only applies to the explosion itself, and only applies if your original shot hit an enemy. This works even on hipfire, but yes, you cannot just shoot the floor. It requires a tiny bit more attention span than a typical AoE launcher. Reminder that the AoE grants final status, meaning that the plus 50% status is unaffected by mods. There are 3 main builds for AoE clear, but are near identical and thus only require 1 build section. These are divided into slash setups for armor, such as Grenier, Toxin DPS against Corpus, and Gas DPS against unarmored or infested. Grouping is optional, but absolutely disgusting if you do so, because remember, Gas has quadratic damage scaling on AoE, and we already have built-in viral. So you can already see I hipfire and kill off Steel Path Gunners regardless. It is assumed Combat Discipline and Arcane Avenger are used to take advantage of the big crit damage stat. If you do not want to use them, there is a section after the initial builds discussing alternative modding. The reference build looks like this. Because the entire purpose of Sporothrix is status DPS, Primed Bane is extremely important since it double dips on dots for 2.4 times more damage. The damage split of Sporothrix is 89% direct hit and 11% AoE. Gun CO is used because slash procs primarily come from natural slash weight instead of hunter munitions. So the 80% status increase is roughly equal to the benefits of what Fang Fusillade for slash procs frequency would give overall. But Gun CO will also buff your direct hit damage on enemies within the original line of fire, and this can be useful if you want to kill off an Acolyte or an Eximus. The only reason why I'm doing this is because the 90% slash and 60% status chance mods, such as Carnus Mandible or Saxum Spittle, does not exist for primary weapons. If you want to do AoE Toxin or Gas DPS instead, only small changes need to be made. Toxin replaces Galvanize Aptitude, and this is because Corpus units typically die near instantly from Sporothrix spam, nullifying most of the benefits of Gun CO. Our upfront raw Toxin damage can kill, with residual dots easily finishing them off instantly. For a Gas build, you will replace both Hammershot and Galvanize Aptitude for Heat and Toxin 60-60 mods. We stick to 60-60 for status since Gas does not scale up its dot damage by modifying more Gas percent. If you have external sources of fire rate, you can opt to drop Vile Acceleration for the elemental mods I mentioned instead today. And if you're not intending to use Arcane Avenger for consistent crits with or without combat discipline setups, then you can drop Hammershot and Vital Sense for the desired elements I mentioned earlier needed to make Toxin or Gas instead. Let's give a special discussion for direct hit DPS builds. Because this weapon is 89% direct hit damage distribution, yes, it absolutely destroys Demolists, Acolytes, and Eximus units if you actually want to aim on them specifically. Headshots are even more lethal since the weapon carries plus 50% total damage on headshots. If you only intend to use this to kill Demolists, then I would recommend using Gun CO since fodder dies sufficiently fast. If you're not using external crit chance setup, since Avenger is not a good candidate for killing Demolists, then I would recommend dropping Hammershot and Vital Sense for either 90% Toxin and Prime Cryo for massive raw viral damage on armor strip Demolists, or 90% Toxin and Electric mods for massive corrosive damage against armored Demolists. The innate viral priming with high status will lead to maxed out viral and corrosive stacks very quickly. Combined with sniper combo and headshot bonuses equals disgusting amounts of raw DPS, be it armored or not. As a last tip, if you're using a combat discipline Arcane Avenger setup, you have access to crits, so please also bring Arcane Momentum. It still has 2.1 seconds reload even without Merciless on a 9-shot magazine. Arcane Momentum is a final reload speed bonus, meaning that plus 150% reload speed divides the 2.1 seconds by 2.5, resulting in only 0.8 seconds required to fully reload. Otherwise, you may want to consider dropping Serration or Gun CO or a different mod for reload speed. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I try my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've done with the Whispers in the Wall update. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. You don't miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.